what are you doing in terms of your Kickstarter page? Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek?
Sure, I can share my screen. Okay.
Wow, first preview. Are we the first people to see this
Yes.
preview?
Yes, you're the first ones.
Deeply honored.
So I've set it to 3 weeks because the conventional wisdom these days is that a full month is a little bit too long. You get this big lull, as everybody knows, in the middle of a campaign. So the sooner having more of a beginning and more of an end is probably a better thing. And then if people want a late pledge, you've of course got a pledge manager at the end of the campaign. Um, the goal is relatively low, so this should trigger a fully funded, which gives people confidence that the game will be delivered. I didn't want to set this too high. Um, the first image is really important that people see. Every big game has some very big, inspiring kind of hero image that we see at the beginning of the game. This is an abyssal basilisk. And then having a full spread of the products, of course, is important. We want to see the box, we want to see the components. And then these three elements are key. How many players, how much time, and what's the age range? Every game does this, so make sure that the project has this. And then this is our tagline, the ultimate 4X worker placement board game. To my knowledge, I don't think this has been done before as far as a mashup, so that's why this was chosen to lead with. And then we get into an overview of the game, and then more cool stuff. Choose your royal house. We specified here that the minis are a separate pledge, so some people can get annoyed if you're showing all this cool stuff, but it's not actually included. To keep the price manageable, that's why we set the miniatures to be their own separate purchase, and we're including standees with the base game. And this was, again, based on a survey, so I wanted to know how important are minis. I didn't know. And because I haven't painted a mini since I was 15 years old, I'm not a collector. And what people told me was it was a distinct split between people who were really into the minis and people who really didn't care either way. So it made perfect sense to split them into a separate product. I don't know if every game has this deep split, but this game did. And then the other thing that was important to highlight for this game was that it's versatile. You can play solo, competitive, free-for-all, cooperative. The goal is to have a little bit of everything and to eliminate as many reasons to not pledge the game as possible, because some people solo mode is really important to them, others don't care at all. To not include a solo mode with a game, I think you're missing on a huge chunk of potential pledges. So why not include it? It's going to take you more time and more development effort, but I think it's always worth it if it's possible to include. So here are the pledges. Again, we arrived at this pricing based on the survey to know what people thought the value of this project would be. And I didn't want to have too many SKUs. Being that we're an indie studio, some of the bigger companies, I think it's easier for them to have a lot of add-ons and products. For this, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. So there's only 4 SKUs that the game comes with, even though there's a lot of stuff in these bundles. I'm trying to minimize the amount of possible risks for things that can go wrong. So that's a big part of the reason. And also, I think when you give customers too many decision points, just like in a game, it becomes overwhelming. So I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So there's 2 bundles you can choose from, A or B. Even if you want both of them, there's an all-in where you get both of the bundles. And this just explains what's inside the box. And these are just some of the... I wanted to make a section on the Kickstarter page that explains really why somebody should back the game. And some people, I think, are hesitant when they hear about a big, heavy 4X game. Oh, it's going to take too much time. It's too much of an investment. Actually, this was specifically designed to play quickly, to not have a lot of waiting around, right? Other 4X games, they can suffer from things like this. So I wanted to call out here very specifically why this is different. Also, for solo players, I wanted to call out, if you're a solo gamer, this game did not have solo mode tacked on. This was built from the ground up for solo mode with no compromises. So a lot of other games, as you have a separate sets of cards that you need to shuffle separately, and a lot of content you're locked out of because you're a solo gamer. It's not the case here, right? Everything is just as good for a solo player as it is for multiplayer. And there's cool things like game-controlled players, adjustable game length. And then the next section explains the explore, exploit, expand, exterminate, all the core game mechanics, 5 tiers of worker placement hierarchy, bumping lower class rivals, expanding everything. Almost everything in this game is upgradable. So you can, as a progression game, I really wanted to push that as far as you possibly could in a tabletop format, because video games are really good, I think, at delivering a feeling of progression and getting from A to B. Board games, because they're contained in this shorter time frame, I think there's not as much, historically, you don't see as much development over a long period of time or even across multiple game sessions. So this game has all that, and you also carry over your progression from game to game as you progress the different scenarios. And we call it legacy light. So you inherit cards as you go. Tech trees are one of the most important things in a game like this. So these tech trees are insane. We show what they look like, how they have multiple branching pathways. Combat is explained here with its JRPG side view with MOBA style abilities that you can use. It has some light dice rolling mechanics. I wanted to make sure that strategy was most important, tactics are somewhat important, and then the dice roll, the randomness, is the lowest tier. But it's important, I think, to have some RNG when it comes to combat to give you that feeling that you don't quite know exactly what's going to happen, despite how well you might have planned. So just scrolling through more of the game features, lots of artwork is shown. Optional social deduction. Not everybody wants to have things like an imposter role or a secret agenda or player versus player, right? So all the things that are even moderately controversial or that people can be split upon, I've designed that so that all those things are optional, that you can play with them or not, depending on if you like it. And then this is a Kickstarter exclusive. So because this is such a big game, it's really not a good candidate for going to a wholesaler or for any kind of retail distribution. The price would be too high for the customer at the store, or it would be too hard for the store to make money on it. So that's why we decided Kickstarter exclusive is going to be the best way to go for everybody. And yeah, this is really the only way you can get the game is through Kickstarter. And I understand some people don't like that. They want to be able to buy it later on. They don't like the idea of FOMO or missing out, but it depends on the project. Some games where they have so much content and stuff in them, it's just not a good business fit for traditional distribution. So that's why Kickstarter, it would really be impossible, I think, to do a passion project of this size without a crowdfunding platform.
And that grows over time as well. Tanaris, for example, had a similar discussion with Alex, the founder. They're doing Kickstarter exclusive for now, but now that they're a few years in, they're looking at ways to do things outside of Kickstarter, but that just takes time to get there.
Yeah, and I love that interview that you did with him, and I think everything that those guys are doing just makes so much sense. And I reached out to him actually to do a crossover promotion because Tanaris has several hero characters from other games. So from a marketing perspective, this is a really great way to cross-pollinate audiences from different games for no cost to you, right? If there's a similar game that has a cool character or something, reach out to them, see if they'd be interested. So we're going to have a Tanaris character in Ascendancy. We're going to send an Ascendancy champion over to them. So it's a great way to do free marketing.
Amazing. Please continue.
Yeah. And now I'm just on a section where it shows how we've been to all these conventions. We've play tested the game a ton. And I think people want to see the game out in the wild. And it's not cheap. It's not easy to go do all these conventions. But I think it's really important, especially as a new developer or publisher, to get that social proof, to really prove to people that your product is going to be good. And there's a link to download the instructions. A lot of people, even though they're not going to read it, I think they just want to know that this thing is 90% done. And presenting the instruction manual, I think, is one of the best ways to do that. I sent out an email to our list the other day, and we had hundreds of people download it. And I haven't had people ask me questions about it, which tells me I'm not sure they're actually reading it, but I think they just want to look at the artwork and see what's going on to get a feel for it. And so I think that's important to do. Then we've got a meet the team section. I think every project has one of these. And the goal here was to include everybody. So many people touched this game in some way that I wanted to really give them credit for what they did, because I certainly didn't do all of this myself. And directing them was basically all of my time this past 5 years, working with all these folks who really helped me. So I wanted to give back to them. Shipping and fulfillment is one of those hot button issues these days. With companies going under or missing their shipping or increasing their shipping later. I think it's really important to call out that you take this seriously, and you're going to be delivering regular updates at least monthly after the campaign, because people have been burned and there is a weariness out there. So especially for young or first time creators, this is really critical to speak their language here and make sure that you're taking this seriously. And then at the end, I've got the stretch goals. I'm going to bump this up near the top of the page after the campaign goes live and after that initial first few days wave has gone, because then you get people who come back to the page and they're checking it to see what new things are happening. The way that I've thought about stretch goals is to put all the really important stuff that people really care about first. I want people to say the really cool stuff is already unlocked, the really critical things. So I think that'll give new people confidence to pledge and to back the game. The more nice to have stuff, I've put more near the end of the cost scale. So as we go from 0 to $1 million on this page, you'll see that's how I've structured the stretch goals. And stretch goals are something I didn't really want to do, because personally, I think it's better to just have everything in the game, and that's the game. People who pledge these types of big games, they want to feel rewarded for being part of a big success, and they want to feel like they're getting this Kickstarter version of the game, which is head and shoulders better than what they're going to be able to get at any point in the future. So I understand that thought process, and that's why ultimately we've added stretch goals. And I've seen enough campaigns that didn't have stretch goals and enough disappointed comments from people saying that they expected them and really wanted them, which is part of the reason to include them here. And then where to find us, with links to the Facebook group, website, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, YouTube, Board Game Geek, all this stuff. It's all marketing that you have to have all these things. And is it redundant? Yes. Is it annoying to create all these different channels? Yes, but people have preferences, and they want to engage with your content in different platforms and different places. And I think you have to respect that and cater to those different types of people. So that's why we've got all these different channels. So that's the page.
What a great page. Thank you so much for that grand tour. That is absolutely incredible. And I really love how so much thought went into everything, and also taking away potential fears and doubts that people might have, whether it's from solo mode all the way through to fulfillment. It's so important to anticipate what might turn people off and be ahead of the curve. And it seems like you really thought about that at every step of the way.